Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, John Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch. Sirianni, who is, I think Jeffrey Lurie, as my guys, our production team, when we were recording something earlier today, mentioned that I guess he's in the Caribbean on his yacht. So this is good for Jeffrey. You know, even when you lose as an owner, you're still winning because you're worth a lot of money and you got fun shit to do whenever you want to do it. But Nick Sirianni, who by all accounts, as of recording this, is going to return as the Eagles head coach. And he's going to outline a project or plan for his different assistant coaches to Jeffrey Lurie to basically make the case, but make them feel good how they're going to improve next year. And listen, if you're a young a young offensive coach and you're the head coach, I understand having defensive coordinator turnover, especially when one of your defensive coordinators get a job. You might hire the wrong guy. Sirianni is not the first, and he definitely won't be the last to make a bad hire at the opposite side of the ball in which he has quote-unquote expertise. I don't fault him for their situation this offseason. And let's face it, they were on the right guy. They wanted Fangio. But Gannon and the Cardinals screwed him. It's why the Eagles went after him and ultimately got a draft pick. So, they didn't ultimately want Sean Desai. They were kind of left holding the bag. They were in the Super Bowl. The hiring cycle had already taken place. And they had to hire a guy who was already on their staff, which ideally they would never have hired. And then they made the change to Matt Patricia, who was even worse. Don't totally blame them. They had to make a change, and that was their only option. It failed. We all acknowledge that. Here's my issue with this whole operation. He's not just going to talk about the defense. He's like, well, how are we going to improve their offense? Let's take, 3 guys that I think we all view as the best young offensive coaches in the NFL that are head coaches, right? Sean McVay, who's my age, 38, 39 years old. He is the offensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur and Kyle, who are playing each other this year, I think they're both 43, 44 years old, right? They would never have to go to their owner, Kroenke or Jed, or in LaFleur's case, Gudikins and Murphy. And obviously, LaFleur has had a defensive issue on his hands. A lot of people want him to fire his buddy Joe Barry. And depending on how this weekend goes, he might have to, right? He probably is going to have to. Joe Barry more than likely won't be his defensive coordinator. Like I said, that happens. I give you somewhat of a pass, right? You hire the wrong guy, you got to pivot. Now, should they have fired him last year and hired a better guy? Probably. But regardless, they're in the second round, whatever. Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, or Sean McVay would never have to walk into the powers that be and go, here is my plan at offensive coordinator and the guys to help us fix our offense. Why? That's what they do. That's their role. I say this all the time. If I'm hiring a young coach, one of the reasons I'm hiring him, one, I am betting on the come that he can lead the entire squad and put together a good coaching staff, but I'm hiring him for his expertise. And specifically on offense, which the highest paid guy on any team, if they're on their second contract and they're good, is always going to be the quarterback, right? If Jordan Love keeps playing like this, he is going to get an enormous contract. Obviously, all the other guys, the Mahomes, the Allen, all those guys make a ton of money. And the Eagles are a good example of having a team with a guy that they paid a lot of money. Now, you can say they paid him too fast. Regardless, they did it. He had an awesome Super Bowl. Might have been an outlier season. But shouldn't your head coach, who's an offensive guy, who's 42, 43 years old, shouldn't that be his baby? Shouldn't his level of expertise be able to fix that position? You notice whenever you watch, those other 3 guys, McVay, definitely LaFleur with Love, and Kyle with the 49ers, they're always talking and dealing with either the quarterback or offensive players. Why? Because they're fucking calling the plays. So if anything ever go wrong, they have a tough stretch, they can fix it. Think about this with Sean McVay. He's like, I'm over Jared Goff. They got a better quarterback, and when that guy's been on the field, they've been freaking awesome. Kyle Shanahan, the offense, no one even questions. That is 100% his baby. Clearly, LaFleur and Jordan Love, what he's done, if Jordan Love can just sustain this level of play, Matt LaFleur is going to be one of the best coaches in the NFL for a long time. If that's what he has in the bag, if this year and this stretch of football is not an outlier. And that's why you feel really good if you're a fan of any of those teams of having that guy as your head coach. Think about the older generation of play callers. Sean Payton, Andy Reid. Would they ever have to look to their owner and go, I need to bring in this guy to help fix the quarterback? Of course not. Even John Gruden, who is coming after the league hardcore in this legal battle, the offense was 100% his, specifically the quarterback, the play calls. So this is my issue with Nick Sirianni. It's like the players like him. I know a lot of people with the Eagles. People like him. He is well liked in the building, right? You saw Fletcher Cox, if you haven't seen the clip, someone asked him, Jeff McClain, about Sirianni getting fired. And, Fletcher's one of the team captains, leaders of the squad, shot right back. Kelsey's had his back. They've all supported him. So it's not like he is some toxic individual where the players turned on, like Josh McDaniels, right? But what does he do? What does he do besides some of the motivation, which clearly didn't work? Shouldn't his expertise be able to get Jalen back on track? Shouldn't that be part of a selling point? But we all know it's not, and it's not going to be. And a huge conversation around the Eagles isn't going to be like, well, are they just going to go land Wink Martindale, or are they going to land so-and-so defensive coordinator? It's like they're surely either going to demote or fire Brian Johnson. Who's going to call the plays? I think it's fair to say no one expects it to be Nick Sirianni. So isn't that your issue to start? Think about Mike McCarthy, who everyone thought was going to get fired, myself included. Well, if you're Jerry and you're 80 plus years old, and clearly you don't want to go on a coaching search, aka hire Belichick, because then he takes credit away from you, that's a different conversation. At least you can say this. I know Mike can consistently win in the regular season. And now this year he proved, now I know the final game was horrendous, but like he can be my play caller. So not only is he my head coach, but when he's my play caller, my quarterback excels, except the playoff game, but has a really good season. Like he can call the plays. So I just can't wrap my head around hiring a young offensive guy who is incapable of calling the plays. In my opinion, that's the wrong guy to have as your head coach. It really is. Like, here's what I know about Mike McCarthy next year. Their offense is going to be good. Their offense is going to be good because it was good when he wasn't calling plays. And then when he took over, it got even better. Sirianni, like, what are the Eagles going to look like? No clue. I would assume they're better on defense if they hire a good defensive coordinator, which they definitely will pay for. But when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, your guess is as good as mine. And that's a problem because you don't guess anymore. Like Sean McVay, they're going to be good on offense. Kyle Shanahan, they're going to be good on offense. Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, now Jordan Love, they're going to be good on offense. Sean Payton, he will figure it out if he gets a capable quarterback. Andy Reid, proven he can coach with any quarterback. Nick Sirianni, I don't know. Puts on weird shirts, high fives Dom. I just don't totally get it. And this is not personal. It's just like from a coaching standpoint, I don't see how you couldn't have just in major reservations. And listen, I texting with people, they've never hired defensive coaches and they've never hired retreads, right? Andy Reid, first-time coach. Chip Kelly, first time in the NFL. Doug Peterson, first-time head coach. Nick Sirianni, first-time head coach. So, and I was guilty of this. I did a lot of Belichick there, even Vrabel. Like, that's not really their style. They're an offensive-oriented organization, right? Now, they value defense and they pay for defense, but they like offensive head coaches. And when you look around the landscape, it's a lot of Belichick, Vrabel, and Pete Carroll, which is not really going to be their thing. And, firing him for Ben Johnson would be somewhat risky. Like we often say, just hiring a coordinator doesn't guarantee you anything. But I think you got to be pretty nervous with Sirianni in the offensive situation. Now, luckily, because of the quarterback and some of the infrastructure they have there, you should be able to pluck. But this isn't college. I can't just steal the best offensive coordinator because I'm willing to double his salary. The guy has to be available. So he either has to be a fired coordinator or someone's assistant that does not call the plays. I think the Eagles have a lot more questions than answers when it comes to the offense and comes to the quarterback.